I wrote Bridge to Terabithia because my son's best friend, who was a girl, was struck and killed by lightning. And I was just trying desperately to make sense of a tragedy that seemed to make no sense whatsoever. But I wanted it to be fiction. And so I did some things deliberately to turn it into fiction. Yeah, I changed the setting, I changed the parents. There were some similarities, especially in the fact that it was a friendship between a boy and a girl. But the boy's parents were, of course, very different from David's parents. Lisa Hill's parents were very different from Leslie Burke's parents. So you change elements, and that immediately begins to change the story. Would you all like to hear my first published work? Pat, pat, pat. There's the rat. Where is the cat? Pat, pat, pat. This was published in the Shanghai American School newspaper. And right beside it was a letter from Miss Essie Shields, the second grade teacher, that said, the second graders' work is not up to our usual standards. So my first published work was published alongside my first critical review. The question always is, did you know you were going to be a writer when you were young? Because all the real writers I know knew they were going to be writers when they were 8 years old. But nobody thought I had any talent for writing. I guess I learned, because I've done a good bit of historical fiction, and I learned pretty early on that in the beginning you don't know what questions you need to have answered. So sometimes you have to just go ahead and start writing, and then when you hit the question, it has to be answered before you can go any further. Then you begin to research that. You know, the nitty-gritty little things like what did they eat? Or when you walk into a Japanese bath in the 18th century, do you take a sponge, or you take a pumice stone, or you take soap? That's that kind of question you don't have to answer before you begin the book. But at some point you're going to have to know. You can write the first draft without knowing, but you can't write the book without knowing. And what I've been sure of for a long time is that what you're trying to do is write a book that means something to people, that has power. And if you write a book that has power, it has the power to offend as well as the power to comfort and to heal.